Every week I make a video highlighting any video game news that interests me because although Nico and I play a lot of games, he tends to be pretty oblivious to news about them, while I'm pretty obsessed with it. So here's everything I think Nico should know about in game news the week of August 21st, 2022. I'm going to try something a little different this week and add a bit more commentary than I typically do. Flying Wild Hog's vampire cowboy shooter Evil West has been delayed again to November 22nd. Originally slated for late 2021 and then pushed back to September 20th, 2022, the developer decided to push it back yet again to make sure it reaches its full potential and that players get the best experience. I seem to recall grumbling about these buzzwords last week too. Oh well. I'm still looking forward to when it releases at around the same time as every other damn game in November. Harvestella, God of War Ragnarok, Tactics Ogre Reborn, Valkyrie Elysium, the new Pokemon, you get the idea. When it finally does release though, it will be coming out on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Speaking of vampires, I saw a fun trailer on IGN's site for a game called Bloody Hell Hotel from Unfold Games, the developer behind the indie horror game Dark, a game that's on my backlog list but that I still haven't gotten to yet. You play as a vampire that's been sleeping for a while and you wake up to your mansion in a state of disrepair. So you decide to clean it up and open it up as a hotel. The game involves the typical crafting, farming, and fighting of a life sim game, but in this case you're getting resources to run a hotel, so it's got management aspects to it as well. Nico and I play a lot of survival games like Core Keeper and V Rising, so I think we'll both really enjoy it. The only bummer thing is that it doesn't appear to have any multiplayer. There's no release date yet, but they're planning on launching it on PC via Steam, Good Old Games, and the Epic Games Store. I've already added it to my wishlist on all three platforms. It just looks so delightful. Check out the full zany trailer at the link in the description below. Last week, I grumbled about the fact that Inflection Games' Nightingale's early access was being delayed to sometime next year. This week, they released their first developer journal, titled Nightingale Journal: The World of the Realmwalkers. The video description says, "Discover the deep history of Nightingale's world in the first installment of the Nightingale Journals. Join Inflection's Aaron, Leia, Neil, and Kaylin as they dive into Nightingale's backstory and introduce you to some of the creatures and characters inhabiting the Fey realms." After watching this video, my ruffled feathers were definitely smoothed. Even more than before, I am excited to play this. I love survival crafting games, and this just looks fantastic. I highly recommend checking out the full video at the link in the description below. Since I'm just a video game enthusiast and I don't actually work in the video game industry at all, obviously I get all my game news from other sources and I curate what I find and put it in these videos. That's a nice way of saying that if I don't care about it, I don't even mention it. This week, there were two huge topics that just about every gaming site was talking about, and both of them were about franchises that I love. The first was Final Fantasy. Inverse.com published an article as part of their Gaming Luminaries series about Naoki Yoshida, affectionately known as Yoshi-P, the producer and director of Final Fantasy XIV Online and producer of the upcoming Final Fantasy XVI. The title of the article reads, "The King of Final Fantasy reveals why the series is struggling." Fans of the series, including myself, have a lot of opinions about this. It's honestly a rather clickbaity title though, since the article itself is really more about Yoshi-P, his career, and what he thinks about the future of video games. The section about Final Fantasy struggling is just one paragraph. Still, that paragraph incited so much online debate, which proved his point perfectly. He basically said that so many people want the franchise to go in so many different directions that it's impossible to satisfy everyone, so they have to make many different games. I read through so many takes on so many sites about this. I also read the comments, mostly because I was curious where my own opinions were in comparison to other fans, and I was not disappointed. Everyone had something different to say about what they think Final Fantasy should and shouldn't be. I just chuckled to myself and thought, you guys are just proving his point exactly. Personally, I trust Yoshi-P with the Final Fantasy series. He may not do everything that I want, but I'm not the only fan out there. This love of Final Fantasy is something that we share with millions of other people, and we would all do well to remember that. Check out the whole article at the link in the description below. The other hot topic this past week was the quarterly update from Activision Blizzard all about Diablo IV's Endgame. Since Diablo IV is a live service game, there's been a lot of speculation about how Blizzard is planning on keeping the game fun over the course of time. Given the success of Diablo Immortal, the mobile game, There was also concern about microtransactions and pay to win. In this update, Blizzard explained that they would be creating seasons, similar to Diablo 3, but it sounds like Diablo 4 seasons will have more stuff. When each season starts, the player will need to create a new character and go through the seasonal content on that character. Each season will include new seasonal features and content. There will also be live events. As for the season journey, it's being done in a similar fashion to other games with seasons, like Fortnite, Halo Infinite, Apex Legends, Valorant, etc. There's a season that you can play through to get rewards without paying anything, or you can get the paid season pass that has other rewards. Blizzard was very, very clear in their messaging that anything received from these battle passes are cosmetic only. They reiterated this multiple times. The shop will sell items that look powerful, but actually have no in-game stats. It's pure glam. Glamour is the true endgame, right? I have an incredible fondness for the Diablo franchise. When my husband and I started dating, we would often play Diablo 2 together online. This was back when one player would host a game and others connected to it. I've been a fan of Diablo ever since. However, I am skeptical about Diablo 4 and the fact that it's a live service game. Diablo 3's always online aspect was somewhat disappointing, but at least I could always just play by myself or with a couple of friends. D4, on the other hand, looks like it's going to be almost MMO-like. I don't need another MMO in my life. I miss the days when video games were more often single-player experiences. Nowadays, games focus on their multiplayer first and then maybe give us a single-player experience. Overwatch 2 is a great example of that. Oh look, it's Blizzard again. As of right now, I am not all gung-ho about playing Diablo 4. Sure, it looks cool, and I definitely want to play a Necromancer, but it really looks like Diablo 3, the MMO, and I want a new Diablo game, not a prettier Diablo 3 with randos. But just as I mentioned in my commentary about Final Fantasy, I am not the only Diablo fan, and this game isn't only for me. Only time will tell if I decide to play this game. What do you think about all this live service stuff? Are you tired of it, or am I just being a grumpy old lady? It's entirely possible, I know. You can read the whole report about Diablo 4's endgame plans at the link in the description below. And that's it for game news this week. Gamescom is happening this week, and Final Fantasy XIV's 6.2 update is going live, so there should be lots to talk about next week. And at some point, I'm hoping to make a video with Nico where we talk about stuff in depth, like what do we want out of a Final Fantasy game, or what do we think of live service games? I think we could have some fun conversations. Anyway, join me again next week for more news and adventure. Until then, play lots of games and have an awesome week.